Yes, the grand final win was Damien Hardwick's 231st game as the Tigers coach. With the win, he joined an elite band of coaches to have won multiple flags, including Tiger legends, the great Tom Hafey and Dan Minogue. And for the second time in 3 years, he joins us on the couch in our final show of the year. Again, Damien, congratulations, an amazing performance. Well done to you, and thanks for coming in.
No, thanks, mate. Pleasure to be here.
Can I just say off the top, I think your club has been absolutely brilliant in defeat and in victory. You've won 2 out of 3. You had a tough loss last year in the prelim final. But the way the whole club has carried itself through this period of success is a great tribute to you, to Peggy, to Brendan Gale and to the playing group. Yeah,
I think so. I think we also understand where we've come from as well, and quite humble beginnings, but players have really taken that message on board about, we all hunger for the greatest success, but we're very humble in the way we go about it, because we certainly know your best is very good, but you can also end up back at the bottom of the heap at some stage also.
How have you pulled up yourself?
No, good. Yeah. A little bit tired, Not as tired as some of my players, judging by what I saw today, but it was all good.
We have the faith in this group, mate. It is unbelievable. 2016, all sorts of questions. You had to go through the process, and did you ever think that they were capable of doing this, or has this surprised you to a degree?
Yeah, I think, Brendan, Peggy, myself, and we all thought we were capable. We just realised we had a really bad year and we had some things that we had to fix, and that's why we stayed together as a senior management team. And we're very fortunate, when you've got a good bunch of people working together to a common goal, generally good things happen. We've got a wonderful playing group, a wonderful staff, and we're blessed really to be fortunate to work for the Richmond Footy Club.
In fact, you look back on that. Sorry, Jed. Is there a pivotal meeting in that time? We had Peggy O'Neill talk on 3AW, had it on before the show, and it's all about people. But I remember back to the press conference when I think it was Monteith and Wood, and what was going through your mind? And was there a meeting where you sort of felt, now I know this is my club, I know where I'm heading, and something that was a catalyst?
I wouldn't say there's a specific meeting. I think we're always aligned. I think that was the one thing we were very, very strong at as a footy club. In previous history with Richmond, there has been turmoil when the club doesn't perform as well. But, Brendan and Peggy have just been, they should be building statues of those guys. Those people really, with the amount of work they've put in and the stability and the culture they've created at our football club, and that's when good things happen.
Did it start dimmer though, more on field from the way you played? You're quite defensive in 2016. Or did you start first with more your cultural things or that attitude around the playing group?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. It was quite, you look back and we did start heavily into the connection piece, but probably the offset for that, we relaxed offensively. Like, you bring kids into the system of AFL and they can all kick mark handball, they can play the game. What I reckon I was trying to do as a coach is trying to get them to play the same way. So we relaxed the reins a little bit offensively. We had a couple of principles that we work through and continue to challenge ourselves with, but then I really started to, as my coaching group did, we started to really hone in on the defensive aspects of the game. We'd always been a solid defensive side, but we wanted to become a great defensive side.
Now, we've seen this high handball game, or certainly a forward handball. Did it start back in 2017 with wanting to be more of a forward side, or more of a get the ball forward, not at all costs, but more regularly throughout the game, and then it sort of flowed into a high handball game? Or?
A little bit. We took a lot out of the Bulldogs had a handball program or a happy handball type thing, and yet there is a bit of a copycat league going round. But we tried to implement a handball game, but we found even when we were going backwards, we're always under pressure. So we just thought, listen, let's just make it a forward footy thing. And our players really responded with that. And then if you get a good understanding of what's going to happen and how it's going to happen, the players can start to respond to that.
We'll go through more of the specifics of the day. I'm more interested in the build. And you said something this morning, actually, about you wanted to coach in a way that reflected your own personality, and then you said that the interim coaches who have come in over the past couple of years, particularly this year, come in and everything's released and they're relaxed, and that was a sort of style of footy that you wanted to coach, or how you wanted to coach.
Yeah, it was, like, to give you an example, like Adam Kingsley, who's a great mate of mine, it's the way our club is and the way it operates, it is very relaxed. And it took Adam a little bit of time to bring out his real sense of who he was. Instead of, we always come in and we do wear an armour as a coach. We want to be the hard, tough guy that we've all been brought up with, those sort of coaches. But the times have changed and our players respond differently to that, and that's the most important thing. I think the relationship that we have with the players, and if that's strong, we'll continue to get continued success on field as well.
I think the biggest thing, and every coach would say the same thing, probably get too much credit when they win and too much criticism when they lose, but to take us through your role, specifically now, and how that's potentially changed over the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, mine's more of a, I manage the coaches really, and they drive a lot of the things that we do. And back, I reckon, when I was at my very worst, I'd micromanage to an incredible degree, and I thought I had to work harder and longer and these sort of things, but it just didn't work. I've probably, and I think I said this morning on one of the programs, that I probably coach less now, but manage more and let people step up and fulfil their potential. And you look at most of the great organisations in the world, that's how they operate. And I think, once again, I learned a lot from my mentors. Brendan Gale's been a terrific mentor of mine as well, the way he goes about his leadership roles, and you learn from the best.
Do you think, gentlemen, and I'm including you all, specifically you though, Damien, of all the final sides, you went down the corridor the most. It's been described as chaos versus control. You're not as high a kicking side as the others. At halftime there was a view though, or maybe it was a want or a hope, that fast footy was back and slow footy was dead. Where do you think the game is going based on what you've delivered 2 years out of 3?
Yeah, it's a good question. Once again, when we attack, we do like to go. We have a slow form of offence as well, but it's probably our least preferred method of movement. But there are stages we'll go into it. But look, I think sides will start to embrace the strength of the players a little bit more and let them play with a little bit more freedom. But once again, you've got to have the personnel to do that. Our recruiting philosophy and our list management philosophy are very strong on the sort of players that we want to attract. And what suits the Richmond Football Club doesn't necessarily suit the next club.
I think that's a big thing for me, Jerry. You look at the team you've assembled, and that team is such a fit-looking team, and I'll take your counsel on that, but it looks like they're able to cover mistakes better than any other team in the competition, which then must give you confidence to flick the ball around a bit, get it forward, take some risks, because you're so good defensively, but your high half forwards, your mids, work so hard both ways.
They are, and that's, a guy like Daniel Rioli, Jason Castagna and Shea Bolton, Daniel Butler, these type of players, that's why they're so important. They get about 10 touches a game, but they're so important to the way we play. The way we set the ground up, how offensive and defensive action revolves around those little guys, and we rate those guys very, very heavily internally. They could go to another side, though, and quite not possibly be as good a player there.
But with speed, you can apply enormous pressure. Doesn't necessarily mean you will apply the pressure, but you must have been thrilled halfway through that first quarter to know that you were on edge and you're up for the contest.
Yeah, it was good as our boys have done it all year. We have been a little bit inconsistent with that. We did change a couple of things defensively in our game throughout the course of the year to get that a little bit better, and then we sort of we ramped the guys right up. We knew if GWS were allowed to control the ball, time in possession's a big one for them. They win. I think when they've won that stat, they were 14-1. So we tried to deny as much time and space as we could. They still controlled the ball at stages, but we always managed to get it back at some stage.
The other area was around the stoppages. So you seem to be able to pull them apart. I was critical of Collingwood the week before. I didn't think they pulled GWS mids apart, especially when they've got a lot of taggers in there. You guys seem to play some tricks on them pretty early on in the game, and they were on the back foot. Yeah,
and our players together with Adam Kingsley and Blake Caroselli did a terrific job of formulating a plan that we thought would work. And it was a little bit scratchy early. It was a little bit of angst in the box, but eventually I think we structured up pretty well, and we got that on our terms, because once again it's a really strong factor for GWS to win footy games. But credit where credit's due. I thought our coaching staff and our players implemented exactly what we want to do for the majority of the day.
And it really started before the week started. I want to take us through the practicality. There's a romance of Marlon Pickett, and we all love the romance, and particularly when Dusty shot that ball across and kicked the goal. But there's not a lot of romance, to be honest, in grand final week, is there? I mean, it's all about the practical side of this young man who was exceptional on grand final day. But take us through the week and how that evolved.
Yeah, well, obviously we played the Friday and we had the 2 injuries out of it, Graham with the shoulder and Broad. And so straight away, the 2 players we automatically thought we could get back in were McIntosh and Ross, so we pulled them from the VFL. And then we wanted to see if Stack could put his hand up to play as well. We really think he's important to us. And then Marlon played that game on the weekend and did some things that he looked a class above. And so I think as coaches, we probably had him ranked 4th. then by the end of that game, all of a sudden it's like, well, could this happen? And then by Tuesday night, I think our coaches, we've worked him into the side. Now we're trying to find reasons not to play him, but thank God we did. He's an incredible talent.
And at what stage during the game in the box you were just looking at each other going, this is not right? Like the rest of us, we're all commentating, watching it going, this is just not how it's supposed to happen. It's got better and better.
I remember when he did a blind turn that I don't think I've seen for
amazing.
10 years. It was incredible. But he's just he creates time and space and puts people in space as well. And, you know, it's for a 27-year-old to come in, he did have, you know, some experience on his side. It was very good.
Let's hear from one of his teammates. Jack Rewald had this to say about Marlon on 360 a short time ago.
I actually was borderline crying when he kicked that goal, just from pure emotion. And the story, the ability for arguably the best player in the competition, who on the verge of winning his second Norm Smith medal, to go out of his way to kick that ball to a bloke in his first game is. I'm so proud of just the club for that reason. Dimmer had the courage to pick him. Marlon had the courage to play. That's it in a nutshell. And bloody oath he played well.
You mentioned the coaches got together, but ultimately was it a Tony Abbott's captain's pick?
Oh no, I think we're all pretty adamant that he was on, and even our players like. Bloody Jack, he's annoying. He walks in match committee, he wants to have his little say. He was dying to pick him. You know, and it's a credit to. Once again, Marlon, but a lot of people at our footy club put a lot of work and support into getting Marlon and his family over. And I've got no doubt, you know, he gets the medal, but those people deserve an enormous pat on the back for giving him a chance.
You've taken some risks with some players, and not all of them have worked out for you, but you haven't been scared off by some failures. You've just kept on going and going, picking up rookies, picking up players with troubled pasts, and you've ultimately come up with a dividend.
Yeah, I think it's the one great thing about AFL footy. It provides second chances, and you know, our club and our culture is very strong, and you know, with Trent and his leaders, you know, really driving that hard, I think it makes everyone's life at our footy club a hell of a lot easier, and the players buy in and they enjoy it.
Do we underestimate the footy brain of Dustin Martin? We look at his physical ability. Champion data would tell us 7 out of the last 9 finals you can make the case for him being best on ground.
Yeah, he's a very smart player. What he's got a great understanding now of. He knows where he needs to be to get the very best result for the team, and that's the development of him as a player, as a leader as well. And you know, once again, we sit there and we name Dustin on the field. He puts himself where he needs to be.
So he makes that call?
Absolutely.
And the De Boer situation on the weekend as well, how much did that sort of play in? We'll show some vision in a minute within the first minute and a half of the game where, and these are great scenes that, I mean, great, isn't it? Everyone that hasn't.
It's not about my fat back.
But he rates now as, you know, one of the great players in the competition, but also one of the greatest finals players of all time.
Yeah, he's an incredible talent, and he's an incredible man. Really, he's a pleasure to coach, and yeah, just his ability level to make things happen. You know, those match winners, they're few and far between. He's one of those.
Can I ask you about two?
Before you go, Ruzzi, that's his record 2017 to 2019. But I asked the question at the top of the program: could he be the AFL's greatest ever finals player? Well, based on player rankings, which only started in 2010, that's exactly where he is right now, and he's at the top of the leaderboard, and he's at the top of a group of players that are incredible finals players in their own right. But Dusty's played 11 finals, and his average is at the top of the tree.
It's a handy team.
It is a handy team, isn't it? Makes my job a hell of a lot easier when we've got the number one guy, doesn't it?
You touched on too, Dusty making that decision. I suspect you got a number of players. I know there's been a lot of debate with the coaches about the runner. Do you think that helped you in the end of the season with experienced team like yours, where you're asking players to make decisions in real time? There's no more pressure in the grand final. Do you think that potentially helped you on the weekend?
I think so. We've got a smart playing group. You know, Kane Lambert's one of the smartest players I've ever coached, and we lost one in Sean Grigg, and that's where it was a really. When he retired, it's like, you know, he's an on-field leader for us as well. But, you know, Shane Edwards is another clever player, as is Trent. So having those players makes our job a hell of a lot easier. But in saying that, they prep really well. Their assistant coaches, their line coaches, you know, really prep the guys well. And so they've got a good understanding of the situations that may occur.
Well, we just heard Jack telling us that he had, because he had Phil Davis, he decided to run him up the ground. So he made that call, he took that initiative, and clearly you've given them licence.
Yeah, and I think that's what, you know, once again, these guys play the game. We sit there in a box and watch it they got a good understanding of what their ability level is and where they can get an advantage. And our coaches really implement that. They open the guys up to say, listen, wherever you can get advantage, let's go for it.
Jack's wingman, Tom Lynch, has been a great pickup. I spoke to Tommy before the game last week and he said he had a discussion with you, maybe a phone call mid-year, just sort of gave him confidence. Yeah,
I think he was probably under siege. He had he came off as 0.
They've been called a liability, I think, by someone.
Liability to the premiership medal now. We wouldn't be sitting here now without him. But excuse me, sorry, he was under siege there for a little while, and he came off 0 pre-season. Was training once a week, and came off a significant injury. And I just said to him, all our team required of him was a contest every time. The more contests you get to, you don't even have to mark it. Just get it to the little blokes. And he did that week in, week out. And we're not a kicks, marks, handball side. We don't get a lot of stats. What we value are things that he has to bring, work rate and effort and intent. And I think he started to understand that. Look, it's nice for him to get some goals, and we enjoy him kicking the goals as well. But his ability to work to contest is incredible.
It helps when your captain sets the example. Yeah. I just love what he's done, and there was a couple of moments at bookend of this first quarter. His tackle on Mumford I thought was really significant because this is what he does, and I think Presty gives a free kick away with a little bit of an ear rub. But I love the fact that when it was over, he's not overly emotional when he gets things done, Trent. Like, he just goes about his business. But I thought this spoke volumes, and it sort of was great to see him let it all out on the back of, by this stage, about 70 points up. And I just thought this was great reward for him. Yeah,
I agree. He's a wonderful leader, and I've said this often. He'll go down as one of the all-time greats of the Richmond Football Club. What he's done with his team is incredible. Once again, he had his detractors along the way, but it takes a brave man to admit fault and misgivings and all those sort of things. But for him to come out and lead the way he has in the last 3 years has been wonderful.
Well, where does Basher Hawley sit? You mentioned greats of... He just quietly sat there and built an unbelievable resume now. I mean, his ability to defend, but more importantly, attack. Yeah. His attacking weapon off a half-back flank is extraordinary. He joins in better than any half-back I've seen for a long period of time. Yeah,
it was surprising with that list because Basher in our ratings would nearly be the same as Dustin in big games. He's a player that we consistently give the poor bugger a 1-year contract, but all Australian this year. His ability to, like you said, create things is something that we really value highly. But, the measure of him, not only as a footballer, but as a man, has been incredible at our football club, and what he's brought, both on and off field, has been spectacular. 2 silver medals now in the Norm Smith, so it's a pretty good resume. I know Dusty's got the gold both times, but Bash has picked up the silver. He came second, did he? He did? Yeah, he was very good again. He was just his attack on the ball, I thought, was first class.
Dimo, just quickly, 2017, the theme of the pre-game was Everest, I think it was, and normally you have a theme for the boys every game. Can you reveal what the theme was going into the game on the weekend?
Yeah, it was K2. So K2's another 8,000 metre mountain, but it's harder than Everest. Like, Everest is the taller, but K2's harder. So we sort of spoke about, we've done Everest. Now we're trying to go one harder, and we sort of carried on that theme from 2018 as well, and we fell short. And there's a patch on the mountain called the bottleneck, where the bottleneck is where most people either get through or you die. And we were at the bottleneck prelim final, and we sort of spoke about that, and that was the main thing.
What's your thoughts on the medals? I know Trent Cotchin believes everybody should get one, but you lost a player in Jack Graham last week. An incredible performance to go on despite dislocating and subluxing continuously his shoulder. Are you a believer that he should get a medal as well?
Yeah, I think it has to change personally. I think we continually sit there and we talk about team first football and, you only got to see the way our guys embraced our development squad when they came on the field. It was all as one, and I think every single person within that club, even from the receptionist to our boot starter and all those, but we're all working towards the same goal. So we need to reward, I think, the whole team. And I personally think it has to change. I think it's outdated just to give the 22 medals, and I think it's prehistoric, really.
I disagree, but I might be the only one here. I didn't want to wimp it out and not say it. Yeah. Brett Delidio pictures were unbelievable too. Yeah. What about this young bloke?
He's a good man, Brett. We still talk regularly and text regularly, and I feel for him, but he'll always be a Richmond man to me. I love what he brought to our footy club, and it's just a shame it just didn't work out with a fairy tale ending one way or another for Brett. But he'll always be a friend of mine, and he'll be a friend of our footy club for a long time.
Talk about a season, Dimmer, as a marathon. I mean, we sit here now, you're sitting next to us, a premiership coach. You've lost Brewald, lost Martin, lost Cochin, lost Rance for the whole season, the other 3 for multiple weeks. What are you thinking round 3, 4 and 5?
Yeah, it was pretty, like obviously losing Alex early was quite traumatic. He's very much a spiritual leader of our footy club, but credit where credit's due, Alex held up pretty tough, and I think he got us back on track by just his resilience really to come forward and say, listen, I'm not dead, I'm going to be okay. But we had to change our focus as a coaching group. We sort of became more development focused on the way we led and the way we coached on weekends as well. Like I was more down at ground level speaking to the players more because just the understanding of the game with our young players wasn't there. But then once we started to get our squad back just after the bye, we probably started to become more Richmond-like again, and we could hand it more over to the players.
Last one from me. It's an amazing situation that Brandon Ellis has gone premiership, grand final premiership, and yet, I'm not expecting you to say, but it looks like he's going to move on for the footy clubs. Do we just need to get used to that is how it's going to go?
Oh, I think so. Brandon, I hope he doesn't mind me saying, he's one of my favourites. I love that kid and what he's brought to our footy club. And look, I'm not sure where it's going to end up or how it's going to end up, but quite possibly he's played his last game for us, but he goes out a dual premiership player. Couldn't be prouder of him, and I think it's part and parcel of the game. Has to evolve. Like we look at our friends at the north in Gold Coast. If he goes to Gold Coast, they've got a really, really good player.
You've also lost Ben Rutten and now Blake Carosella, so the IP actually starts to get around the league by virtue of osmosis. Are you concerned about this, or is it just, as you said earlier, you need the personnel to be able to implement whatever you do? Yeah,
a little bit. They're both outstanding coaches. They've both helped us enormously to get us where we have over the last 3 years, and are going to be wonderful for the Essendon Footy Club. But it's you can replicate as much as you want, but you probably need a talent base that plays our way. We've got a certain style of play that we have, and they'll look to implement that, and we wish them all the very best, but as long as it's not against us.
So you've done Everest, you've done K2, you've probably drunk a bit of Mont Blanc, but what about scaling that next time? What's the theory and what's the motivation for the back-to-back? Because that is a difficult one.
Yeah, I think I'll take some time, Jared, to figure out that one and enjoy it for a little while before I start stressing out again about it. But look, our guys, once again, they're a very driven group. Trent is incredibly hungry to win as much as he can, and we'll just worry about our process and take care of that, and we'll see how we go. Well,
you play exciting footy, and the great thing is it's premiership footy. Congratulations.
Yep.
A magnificent effort to go to a 2-time premiership coach. Congratulations, and thanks again, as always, for coming in.
No, pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well done, mate.
Damien Hardwick, the legend continues to grow. We'll take a look at the Giants on the other side of the break.